Everyone will tell you that you can't earn money writing a book. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you how I've earned over $500,000 writing one book. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss this episode. Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle. Whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I'm so excited to share with you today how I have earned over $500,000 writing one book. Okay, it wasn't really one book. It was one book written over and over. We are now in the 3rd edition. We have finally published our 3rd edition of CCM Certification Made Easy. And when going back and looking at the royalties that have been earned over the last, 6 years, when it was first published in December of 2014, I realized and calculated that we have earned over $500,000 in royalties off of this book, which is amazing because everybody tells you can't make money writing a book, but we have. And I want to share with you the lessons that I've learned so that hopefully some of you can do the same thing that I did. First of all, it's not about the money. It's about the results. When I started writing the book, I never dreamed that we would make this kind of money. My sole focus was on the results. My goal was to have case managers read the book and get the information they needed to pass a certification exam. And we get that result. People who read our book have a much higher likelihood of passing the exam. So we are getting the results that we want, and we are getting money because we are delivering on those results. So please start with the results. Don't start with, how can I make a bunch of money? Second, you have to know who you're writing to. I speak to so many people who want to write a book. When I ask them, who are you writing this for? They say, everyone. Everyone needs to know this. If you're writing to everyone, you're writing to no one. Because nobody wants to read what's out there for everyone. They want to know what they need. They call it in the industry niching down. Niching down to one specific person that really needs to hear what you have to say. I could have written a book to pass any case management certification, but I chose one specific case management certification. I could have written a book about case management in general, but there were many of those, and they wouldn't help someone to pass the test as much as this one specific book written to pass this one specific test did. Okay, the next lesson, this is point number 3, is to self-publish. The reason I have made this money is because I self-published and I get all of the royalties. When you go with a traditional publisher, you usually get less than 10% in royalties. I'm getting about 60% in royalties. So we don't get everything. We don't get all of the money. We don't get the whole price of the book, but we do get significantly more than if I went with a traditional publisher. So self-publishing is definitely the way to go. For that reason, and for several others, I can get my book out to the people who need it. I don't have to go to a publisher and ask their permission to share or to advertise or to do anything. I can do anything I want because it is my book and I own all of the rights. You make much more money, and you also get to help more people because you're writing for the people. You know your customer, you know the person you're helping, and you don't need an agent or a publisher to tell you how to write to them. You know them better than anyone. Also, you need to know that when you self-publish, it will cost you money. To do this the right way, to put a book out there that is respected and understood, you need to have it properly, professionally edited, professionally formatted, and you need to have a designer design your cover, and that all costs money. These are the things that people will be looking for. They want to look for a professional book, and if they see something with a bunch of editing errors or they see something with a bunch of formatting errors, it makes the book look less reliable and it won't be as respected. another thing, while we're talking about this costing money, is you need to find a book that people are willing to pay more than $10 for. So the book that I wrote helps people to pass a certification exam, which helps them to get a better job and make more money. So there's a reason for them to buy this book. It's not entertainment. You need to find an area that people need help in, that you can actually help them, that they're willing to invest in. To make this kind of money, my book sells for, I think it's $69, which is actually pretty cheap compared to some of the other scholarly type of books that are out there. So it is much more than like a $20 book. I would have to sell many, many, many more books to make the kind of money that I was able to make with this book, because the book is a higher priced book. Okay, next point. Don't wait for permission. You do not need anybody's permission. I was not an expert on the topic when I began writing on it. I became an expert through the process of writing the book. When you're doing the research and you're trying to get this information and rethink the information and make it understandable to somebody that is reading it, you are learning it and you're becoming an expert. You don't have to wait until you are the expert to write the book. You become the expert through the process of researching and writing the book. Also, by not going to a publisher, you don't need to ask their permission. You do not need a certain degree. You do not need to have a certain level of college education. You need to understand how to research the topic and write intelligently on it so that you can help the person that you're trying to help that is reading the book. Okay, next is progress over perfection. When I wrote the first edition of my book, I knew in my head what I wanted it to be like. I had this ultimate resource in my mind, but I knew it would take a long time. It took me a year to write the first book. Going to do this perfect edition, it would have taken me probably 2 years. Things like practice questions and an index and all of these things that I wanted to add to the book. But I got that first edition out there. It's called the Minimum Viable Product, and it was every topic that was on the test, and it explained each one of those topics, and it helped so many people. It did its job. Now, the third edition that we have out, finally, after all these editions, I finally have what I feel like is the perfect edition. We have a website that accompanies the book where we can have all these additional resources. We do have the practice test in the book now. We have all these things we can do to help the people that I couldn't do in the first book because I had to get that first book out there. And because when you get that first book out there, people will tell you what you need. They will tell you what else they would like to see, what enhancements they would like to see that will help them. Okay, moving on to the next thing. You need to build a following as you're going. It's like the field of dreams. Just because you create it does not mean they will come. They have to know that you're there. So build a following as you're writing by sharing as you go. I share information all the time. When I first started, I shared it on a blog, on a website. And as I was researching and writing, I would put little tidbits on there, and people would be reading that as the book was being written. Now we have a Facebook group. So I go into the Facebook group every once a week, every Saturday, and I share in there. I do it in a different way now because I have this big group with 14,000 case managers in it, and it's easier for me to go in there and talk for 20 minutes or 30 minutes than it is for me to write another article and get it out there and then for them to take the time to read it. So I think it's more beneficial for everybody. But the point is, share as you go. That will build your following so that when your book is ready, you have somebody there that wants to read it. Okay, next, be different. Don't be like every other book out there. I had a purpose with this book, and my purpose was I wanted to, when I was looking for the information, I was finding it was very head heavy. And after a long day's work, when I didn't want to have to come home and read things that were written at a college level, I wanted to be able to read something that was written like a magazine that I could just kind of read through and get the information. So that's what I did. I wrote that book that I was looking for. I took these scholarly books that were out there and I rewrote them in just layman's terms in a very easy to read format so that a nurse or a case manager who was very tired after a long day of work and then coming home and making dinner and helping her kids with their homework. And now that she has to study for this test, I wanted it to be easy for her. I wanted it to be easy on her eyes, so I made the print bigger. I wanted it to be easy for her to digest, so I used simple words. I didn't want to try to impress anybody with my words. I wanted to make it simple and easy to read. And from what I've been told, that's what I've accomplished. So, these are just some of the things that I've learned along the way, but I wanted to share them with you because I am hoping to inspire you that you have the knowledge to go out there and research and write your own book that you can help thousands of people with, that in turn will reward you by giving you the financial freedom that you desire. I am always looking to help people to write that book. I know it's hard and I know it's scary, and I am willing to coach people through that process. If they want to, reach out to me at deanna@casemanagementinstitute.com if you're interested in writing that book. Or you can also reach out to me at hello@thestayathomenursepodcast.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. I hope it's inspired you that you don't have to be an expert. You can become the expert through writing. And I hope that some of you will take me up on the offer and want to write a book that we can help you to get out there so that you can change the world. Until next week, have a great week.